Hello, ghosties and wanderers. Don't worry, I see you. Uh, I'm Jagul, and you're listening to Here with a Ghoul. Yes, I'm very aware that was on purpose. The play on the name was very purposeful. And this is my first official episode. Yay! Ooh, I'm sorry if that was loud. I'm actually super excited because we're going to be covering a topic that I absolutely love. I personally very proud about the compilation of notes I have for this topic. Granted, it has been covered by a whole lot of like paranormal investigators and so much and so forth, but it can't really be helped. This is a must, right? So if you didn't read the title of this episode, we are going to be covering the Goatman's Bridge. Now, the Goatman's Bridge has a very interesting history. And just note, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to tell you the history and then the superstitions and then what I think about it. I hope this goes as planned and I hope you guys like it. All right, let's start. So, the Goatman's Bridge is actually called the Old Alton Bridge. Now, whenever I think about that, that kind of makes me chuckle because technically Alton is no longer a town. You heard it here, folks. So the bridge itself was built in 1884, yeah, by the King Iron Manufacturing Bridge Company. Yes. The bridge was built in Denton County, which was formed in 1884, and technically the first attempt to settle there was called Pinckneyville, but that died out, which is followed shortly by Alton, but Alton died out as well. I believe the last building still standing in where Alton Village it was is the old Baptist church as well as the Alton cemetery. Now, that is like a super summed up history about what happened. There is a lot of like apparently creeks died out, mayors were driven out of town, so much so forth. I recommend you looking into it. It's actually a very interesting history, but I am not going to speak your ears off for 30 minutes telling you a history about an old bridge. We're all here to talk about why it's called the Goatman's Bridge, right? So, let's all take a breath, because this is where things kind of get a little freaky. So, the Goatman, it didn't earn its title until almost half a century later. The story behind it is that there was an African American named Oscar Washburn, and he was a goat farmer. He raised goats and sold goats and like did the milking and all that jazz. And he was like apparently super nice. Like really supportive, had a nice family. Like the only quote unquote sin he had in the like early 1900s was that he was African American, which is super stupid because what? But unfortunately, there was a local KKK in the area that was not pleased with this family. And you know what was the triggering feature of what caused all this to initiate? It was a sign he posted that Mr. Washburn posted on the bridge that read, "This way to the Goatman's." This apparently angered the members of the Klan. And at some point in August of 1938, they drove their cars, the Ku Klux Klan, across the bridge with the headlights off to Mr. Washburn's family home. Now, and they abducted him, like straight up abducted him from his house and dragged him to the bridge. They tied a noose across, like over his head, and threw him over the side of the bridge. Now, when they this is where things like kind of go a little weird. Conflicting stories state that he disappeared off the edge of the bridge. Like they looked over and his body wasn't there, but the noose was there. Others said that only his head was like still on the noose, but the rest of his body was gone. We're not quite that's where the conflicting is, but I like to believe it's the whole like his whole body disappeared, because that makes more sense about what the later superstitions are. Now, reportedly, you never see him again. The Ku Klux Klan from there kind of like went back to his house and like killed the rest of his family, which only angered him. Why would you kill the family? That's what I'm always on. Like, why would you kill the family? You got the man! Why go after the wife and daughter? But, yeah. Now, there's also another story on top of Mr. Washburn's. That is another reason why it's called the Goatman's Bridge. Now, this tale predates the bridge, like, by a good couple of decades. And this one's from a goat herder named Jack Kendall, and a bunch of cowboys lynched him. You heard it here. A bunch of cowboys killed a goat herder named Jack Kendall. Now, the legend goes that they had, like, lynched him, and then through the power of voodoo, his body was reanimated, his head ripped off, then the body ripped the head off of a nearby goat and replaced his own head, while the cowboys all watched. Yes. Imagine those cowboys. I'm sorry. But imagine you're the cowboy, you just finished lynching this dude, and then he suddenly stands back up, rips his own head off, rips a goat's head off, puts it on your own neck, and then kind of just like stares you down. I would be horrified too. But granted, they deserved it. They lynched a random dude for giggles. Because why would you lynch a goat herder if it wasn't for giggles? Anyway, but that happened, which is now, those two stories contribute to a whole lot of the superstitions behind it. Now, the superstitions such as abandoned cars, if you drive your car across the bridge with the headlights off, reportedly the car either disappears or you'll see the car on the other side with no signs of their occupants. Vehicles would break down, or headlights will like flicker, and your like electronics and everything in the vehicle would just go haywire. Some people, when they step out of the car and like if you cross the bridge, you'll hear hoof beats, as if Mr. Washburn was like anthropomorphic goat. Because always Mr. Washburn, they think, is the the wannabe stereotypical Satan look, and it's always Mr. Kendall who has just the goat head. At least that's what I've been reading. But there's also the story, if you knock 3 times on the bridge and you look over the side of I can't remember which bank it was anymore. Gosh darn it. But if you look over to the bank of the river that's over, you can see red eyes stare at you, or you can hear him talking. Now, on a completely unrelated note, there was also a lot of rumors of Satanists in the area that were sacrificing cats. So for the longest time, the area was not selling cats. Like there was no adoption to cats. You couldn't find cats anywhere within like a few mile radius. They stopped now. Denton has like 3 cat rescue centers just for felines. So do check them out. It's a good thing they're rescuing felines and not letting them be sacrificed for Goatman. But that was a thing that happened for the longest time. Now, Now you're tracking about the history, the rumors as to why that happens, and like some of the little bits of things to initiate paranormal activity on the on the bridge, on the goat. Really, Jay? My thought and opinion about it, I think personally, this bridge, there's so little actual like paranormal activity around it. Like, it's 2 stories. Yes, and they're both pretty horrific, but it's not as bad as like some other stories you hear. Like, you hear about the Fae all the time, and that can be really messed up. But I don't know. Personally, I think the Goatman Bridge is more of a local myth that has spread across into the internet ether. I would love to check it out. Don't get me wrong, and I most likely will. And if I see anything, I'll get back on here and tell you, because I am a major believer in this stuff. I think what happened is that there is a goat man. It's just as any paranormal activity for any spiritual, like any spirits. It takes a lot of spirit energy to make those interactions into the human realm. And I think the amount of interactions are heavily exaggerated. Now, enough of me rambling about my opinion of this. Please tell me your opinion of this. Tell me if this episode is okay or not okay, depending on your feedback. Please let me know so I can adjust it into future episodes to make it sound way more clean and put together. I do have my email in the profile link of this podcast. Email me whatever you want me to cover next or cover in the future. Please do. I love looking into things. Now, stay safe, stay lovely, and don't let the ghosts get you.